There is a ton of confusion over these names like Testable, New Shade, Rojo, Isabella, and I hear it all the time. And I even hear it from people in my own clan where people don't fully understand what the terminology is to get it right. And why does this matter? Because people will be offering you a dog that is not what they say it is, not because they're being dishonest, but because they're confused on this wording. So it's important to get it right. These can be expensive dogs, and the difference between a dog that is, a New Shade Isabella versus a dog that's not can be significant. So let's get to the bottom of what this is and why we've got it wrong. And I think this starts with go back about 4 or 5 years ago. And well, first off, these are the letters we're talking about. So specifically, we're talking about this group right here. But there are other things to do with, pinks and other big ropes that are not part of, they still exist, but they're not part of this nomenclature we're talking about. So these letters I have up here, they've always been that way. But the problem comes with there are two versions of chocolate. And if you go back about 5 years ago, there was a version of chocolate that was prevalent that we called it untestable chocolate because there was not a DNA test to detect it. Now we do have a test. We now call it cocoa, little co, little co. And so this is where some of the confusion comes in. And then this one here, little b, always has existed. But that one we called testable chocolate. And now we're kind of calling it Rojo for the most part, which I think is a good idea. But the problem lies in these two versions of chocolate. Now, if you had a dog that was big B, little b, one copy of Rojo, I'm going to call it, and it was big CO, little co, one copy of Cocoa, that would not make a chocolate dog at all. It would be a Rojo Cocoa carrier. So I just want to get that clear. All right, so let me get a wiper here. Step off camera for a second. Grab this guy right here. Okay, so this is the confusion though, is what we now call cocoa, you used to call untestable chocolate. What we call testable chocolate, we could still call it that, but the better word is probably Rojo. And both of those make chocolate dogs. If you've got two copies, little b makes a Rojo dog, little co makes a cocoa dog. And they are different versions of chocolate in terms of they don't mix, they're independent of each other, and their colors are somewhat different. Now, it's not always the case because shading can change a lot depending on some other genes like intensity. But this dog tends to be more of a red color, and this dog tends to be more of a darker chocolate color. Both these dogs, if they've got two copies of either one, will have a red eye glow in a dark room. And you can see that in this little picture right here. That's a real giveaway that you've got a dog. Now, there is one thing that will also show that, and that's a merle dog. So a merle dog will also have a red eye glow, so be careful. It's not always work. And this, by the way, works. If you've got a dog that's a cream dog, which covers all of this up, it always is just a cream dog. Although it may be a chocolate dog covered in cream, it will have a red eye glow. So that's kind of interesting. So there's a simple test that you can do to confirm that a dog is really a chocolate dog versus something else. And you can do that nothing more than your camera, video, dark room with the light on, take a look at that video and it looks demonic and it's obvious. And it doesn't show up typically until dogs are maybe a couple of months old before it shows up particularly well. Okay, so this is where the confusion, as I say, goes on, is the naming of these two. So let's talk about how these things go together. All right, so the first one is the blue gene. We sometimes call that a dilution gene, fine. No, it's not really blue, it's more of a gray color. It mutes the color. A dog that is a blue dog will be a little d dog. Great, test for that, no problem at all. Now, we've got some other colors. So let's talk about what we get if you've got a lilac dog. A lilac dog would be this and this together. Blue and cocoa makes a lilac dog. If you add 2 copies of cream to it, it then becomes a platinum dog. So that is a platinum. If you go blue, and Rojo, that makes for an Isabella. Isabella. And let's just get rid of the cream here and just get the cream out of this because I don't want to make this any more confusing than it has to be. That's Lilac. So I just want to. So there's two dogs. They look similar. They're a little bit different color and shading maybe. One's a Lilac. That would be a blue and a Cocoa. And one is an Isabella. That would be a blue and a Rojo. Okay. If you get a dog where you've got both Rojo and Cocoa together, that is a new shade. That's a new shade. And it tends to be a very light version, kind of more of a milk chocolate color. So both those together becomes a new shade. If you have blue and Rojo and Cocoa together, that makes a new shade Isabella. And then if add cream to any of these, then they become platinum versus. So you'd have a Lilac covered in cream, an Isabella covered in cream, a new shade covered in cream, a new shade Isabella covered in cream. That's the safe way of calling that. Because remember, cream covers everything. Okay, so hopefully we can now get rid of these words, testable chocolate and untestable chocolate, and replace those correctly, I think, with Rojo and Cocoa and get rid of some of this confusion. So, I mean, I run into this a lot of times where people say, you know, the next thing is when someone says they've got a carrier, they say, I've got an Isabella carrier. It's not particularly meaningful. It can mean a whole bunch of different DNA. What it would definitely at a minimum mean, if you said I have an Isabella carrier, that would be an Isabella that only carries one copy of D and one copy of CO. So it could be a fawn dog, could be a brindle dog. It's not an Isabella. People want to call that an Isabella carrier. Yeah, I don't like that wording at all. Quad carrier, another one that I hate, where people say, you know, my dog carries 4 other genes in, you know, partially, only one copy of them. Again, very confusing. It is much better any time that you are ever talking to anybody, including me, about a dog, you're better off you give somebody the letters. If they give you the letters, there is no confusion. If they start talking about Rojos and new shades, there can be lots of confusion. And I can promise you that I would guess 2/3 of people get this wrong. And so, you know, that can really get people into a bind. All right, so let's just talk about the other ones while we're here, just to be complete about this. We'll just get rid of this right now. Kill that. All right, so then you've got some other modifiers, some other genes that go on. The A gene can either be AY, which typically makes for a fawn dog. You've got AT, which makes for a sable dog. You've got AT, which makes for tan points. You've got ATA, that makes also for tan points. Tends to be whiter, more orange. And then you've got AA, which is what's called a double recessive or a solid coat color. It's called recessive black, although it's not really black. So I don't know why we call it recessive black. I think that's lousy wording for it, but I obviously can't change that. But AA dog would be a dog that is a solid coat color. The K gene, you've got KY, which is a non-brindle dog, or you've got KB, or KBR sometimes, KBR. Those are brindle dogs. That's the brindle dog. That's the one, in my opinion, that you don't want if you can avoid it. You don't want that one if you can avoid it. The pi gene would be little s would be a pi gene, and the Merle is always one copy. So that's the one copy right there. Merle gene would be MM. These, the brindle gene and the Merle gene only take a single copy for them to be expressed. So a dog that is KY, KB would be a brindle dog, and you'll see some brindling on it somewhere. And again, a dog that is MM is not a Merle, and a dog that has a single copy is a Merle. Those are the only ones that take a single copy. All of these, you have to have 2 copies present for it to show up. But again, that's not really what we're talking about here. We are talking specifically about this Rojo and Cocoa issue and new shades. So again, a new shade would be both copies together. Single, just 2 copies of little b, So let's go a little bit further. Let's say you had a dog that's this. Little B, big CO, little CO. What would you call that? Well, that is a Rojo that carries cocoa. As opposed to this, little CO, would be a cocoa that carries Rojo. When you say it carries, it means it's got a single copy of it. This would be a Rojo, this would be a cocoa that carries Rojo and Blue. So that's the way you'd word that. You know, sometimes it's a lot easier just to say, I've got a Rojo that I've got a cocoa that carries Rojo and Blue than big D, little big B, little CO, little CO. When you talk about it, it's hard to give it in letters because our brain doesn't really work very well that way. So it's much better to have this written down. But again, if we're vocalizing it, then I mean, I can see that we want to use the words Rojo and U-shape. But remember, there's lots of confusion on this, and there's lots of you who think you've got a particular dog and you don't. And I know that because I run into these people all the time. People want to come to me to breed a dog. They'll say, I've got this. And then I'll say, okay, send me the DNA. They send me the DNA, and it's like, nope, you've got something different. It's close, but it's different. And that does impact a lot on what you're going to get when you breed that dog. So this stuff is important. I've flabbered on long enough on this one. Have fun with your dogs. Thanks for watching. Hey, by the way, if you like this stuff, go to Breeder 101. We've got lots of video courses there that I think you find are excellent. They all come with a money-back guarantee. Have a great weekend. Bye.